I believe that every film has a rhythm. An action film would have a different rhythm. For example, to a rom-com, there's a rhythm, and rhythm then, sorry, and then rhythm. What rhythm does then? It determines then the space, the pace, and how fast. Sometimes even the way people talk gives you the rhythm, of the actual film. Are these people speaking in a very subtle, soft? We said theme, we said story, determines what the score is going to sound like. We said the conversation with the director, the stakeholders, obviously, but mainly once the director understands what is his role, he knows the story better because he has to make that vision come to life. The soundscape, where is the history of this film? Where is the actual time frame of this film? That will actually determine the type of sounds you're going to use. Then you approach it from creating from picture, from what you are seeing visually, or you create from what you're hearing in terms of dialogue. And then we were on 7, which is the tempo, the rhythm of this thing, the rhythm of the actual film. How fast is it going? How slow is it going? What is the pace of it? Is it action-packed or is it something that is laid back? Even when people are speaking, their speech will give you the rhythm, There's little undertones in their speech, in their dialogue that gives you an understanding of what's the pace and the tempo or the rhythm of the film, right? So, and then 8 is the characters themselves as well. You get to know the characters in the films, though. That is also going to be divided into 2 parts. You get to understand the characters in the film in 2 ways. One, I had spoken before, is by reading the script, just what is on paper, but sometimes that is also not a clear depiction of what is actually happening with this character, because words alone are just one half. The performance that is going to be brought out by the director is the second part. So understanding the characters in a scene, for example, would make you understand maybe this person is angry, maybe this person is excited, So the character on film at that time is going to determine what are you going to score. Maybe sometimes you don't even have to silence without you putting any music is enough, because maybe the actor shines through enough to portray the message without you. So sometimes silence is golden. You would notice that not every part of the film has music. There's a reason for that, because the actors sometimes they just bring out that emotion, They can make you cry without the music necessarily enhancing that, So you speak to the director and you get to understand that. So understanding the character is that. It's also part of it. Now, in realizing this process, obviously the music scorer will have to work with a number of other people in the studio, like working with musicians. Now, that's the other part, the 9th part, working with musicians. Depending on the budget, sometimes it means working with an orchestra, right? Now, the same way that the director will direct the actors, the role of the person who was overseeing the sound, then is their role would be to direct the musicians. And that's why it's important that you understand the story as the person who's in charge of creating the sound. Because what are you going to tell other people that are also part? Because sometimes you're not working in a vacuum. You're probably working as a team. You've got maybe 3 or 4 people who are contributing or who are your assistants, So understanding the story would also help you portray it better to the people that needs to play something to actually make it come to life. It's very, very important. Once the soundscape is done and all that, and you have some sort of a rough draft from beginning to the end of the film, creating all these emotions by understanding the character, by understanding the vision of the director, by understanding the scenes, by understanding the story, there has to come a time when then you have to ask for feedback, because that's another part of creating anything from scratch, is that it's going to be susceptible to scrutiny, criticism, and all that. And it's important that right at the beginning, as we are creating this thing, before it gets seen by anybody else, there has to be a revision and feedback process, you know? So what that means is probably popping some popcorn, sitting down and having a screen, like a private screening with the director, with some stakeholders. We're listening to the soundscape, we're listening to the film, we're watching everything that's actually happening, and you're gonna have to take some feedback, because that is important, you know? And sometimes and that's the thing about creating in a vacuum. Sometimes when you're creating in a vacuum, you think everything is fine. And the moment you take it to a place where it possibly could be scrutinized, criticized by people, your flaws start jumping out. Like the things that are actually wrong, you would also probably start picking them before anybody else starts giving you any feedback. So that process is important, because it's a reevaluation process. Usually, the first time you'll probably be the one pointing things out, say, okay, that is wrong. I could fix this. You know, as you are reading the room, you can see the people's reaction as well. You know, and it's something I usually say about eyebrows. When people are interested in something, eyebrows usually rise up. And when they're not, it tends to maybe have a frown or something happens, you know. You read all those things, you know, and we're like, okay, maybe I've not done such a great job, or there's room for improvement, or hey, people are blown away by this and they're giving you great feedback. So that process is important before it gets seen by the public, before people start putting their money and buying a ticket to actually watch something. That process of giving each other feedback within the team is important, you know. And honestly, it's kind of hard to tell people what they did wrong with their art or their craft, but it's part of the process, you know. It's not being rude, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If something works, it works. It's very hard to look at somebody in the eye and go, look, I know you've sweated very hard doing this thing, but it's just not working. Or, hey, look, it works. So part is also important. So the feedback process is important. Part of the feedback, because it can be done now, we wrap up the revision process, and then we go and we revise, we do the changes, we come back, it goes through the feedback process again to a point where everybody's like, okay, Sharp, everything looks fine, everything is amazing, we've got one to go to market. The next set of feedback, because as a creative, when you release a product out, there's always going to be feedback from the market or from the audience or from people that were not part of the process, but people that were paid their money to actually go watch this thing. So the part of the feedback process would be taking those notes as well. Because people now have social media, people are going to post, they're going to comment, they're going to tell you. There's many outlets for feedback, and you cannot ignore that. You cannot ignore that there's these things. It might not change what has come out as far as this product is concerned or this film is concerned, but what it helps do is that going forward, when you're creating the next one, you bring into account all this other experience, all these things that has been said, all this feedback that has been given to you, so that you become a better producer or a music scorer in the next project. So those are the 10 points. Really, I wanted to focus on. I'm more than happy to actually take questions from here going forward around this and other areas that may be of concern when it comes to music scoring and sound editing as far as films is concerned. So just to recap, it's theme, understanding what is the genre of the film that you're working with. 2, understanding the story. When you understand the story better, you are much more in a better position to actually tell it. I've seen people go in and just because somebody is a great producer and they just take them because they have a namesake or is famous or whatever. They take that person, they put them to score, but they don't understand the story. They were not invested in the process. So it helps understanding these things. Working with directors, you know, just because you are given something, it's like a blank canvas, it's already shot, it's edited and whatnot sometimes, and you're just coming and score without understanding what's the vision of the director, because these has to align. It's important. Understanding the time as well, because you don't want to contradict yourself. Understanding the history and the time period of the film you are creating is important. Create from picture is very, very important as well, just so that you just get an uncensored and untainted. Because the picture, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Just by looking at it, it can inform what you need to do. The dialogue, listening to what is being said, how it's being said, is the tone of what is being said, can also inform how you approach that. The speed, the tempo is the seventh part. The tempo of the rhythm of the film, the pace of it, determines how you actually then lay that music into place. The characters as well. When you listen to the characters, there are certain areas where you just let the characters shine without letting the music get in the way. You know, sometimes the character is not doing much, maybe doing facial stuff, and then you just add music to actually enhance the scene as well. Working with musicians, because when you understand all these things I've named above or just stated above, it's easier then to relate this message of what needs to be done to your fellow team members and your team and your fellow musicians that you're working with, or if there's a big budget or you're relaying this to an orchestra. And feedback is very, very important in any piece of work that we do in the film industry. Feedback is important to help us grow. I have this thing that I usually say, that we learn by listening. We learn by listening. Thank you.
Wow, Clarence. Yo, that was my word. I don't know how to even actually put it in one word in terms of how informative this has been, especially for me. Thank you so much. Portia.
Hello. Hi.
People can post questions. I think we've got like 10 minutes left. We've got like 10 minutes left. So I really just only allow Portia to just like ask questions. But Portia, I think I have one thing to say with regards to this. If we can have a workshop, because this is so informative and people are not informed about this. People that I know, they're not aware of this. So I think we will need to have an extended, like even if it's physical, if it's possible, or we can do it online like this. But then have a
I'm definitely all about it. I'm passionate about growing the industry. I'm passionate about making people and creative, especially in our industry, because there are things that we need to do to actually make ourselves compete on a certain level with many other creatives. So if my contribution helps, I'm definitely up for it. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the presentation. Well said. Well said. All right. I'll dive in straight to the questions. Are there any free online platforms that I can access my films from? That I can access the songs to put on my films? The question is, are there? Let me repeat the question.
Free.
Sorry. Are there any free platforms where I can access the music for my films?
Okay, that's the first one. What is there's definitely what I can do. Let me do this, because what I tend to do is with free platforms, then you have to still pay certain people for all of that. You know, there's also other legal issues. That's the thing with free stuff. There are other legal issues with it, but free platforms, I'm sure they exist. I'm just going to search quickly. It's just that, guys, if there are softwares that are actually available, I would say free is nice, but guys, if you want to do an success, if you want to be successful in what you are doing, there's a certain investment that you need to actually have or put towards your craft, right? Sometimes you pay a subscription fee for a year and it doesn't cost that much and you have access to his huge library. I wouldn't say a free, what I'll do is I'll probably give you, it's not a free platform, but it's one I would recommend where you won't have any issues going forward. If you can visit the site called artlist.io, www.artlist.io. Artlist is ARTLIST.io. There's royalty-free music and you get a free license to do as much unlimited use with the library that you have. You have unlimited downloads there. You sign up and believe me, I think it's better that way because you get cinematic sounds, you get ambient sound, you get music, you get a whole lot of library music that is so much rich, that is so much better in quality, that will actually enhance your productions. I'm not knocking off wanting free stuff. I'm just saying sometimes a small sacrifice and paying a fee for an investment towards creating good quality work is worth the sacrifice. That's all I'm saying. Next question,
All right.
Portia.
All right.
Yeah.
I am new to film industry. I just shot a short film, a 2-minute clip. I need to ask, am I in trouble if I'm using a well-known musician music on my clip?
Oh,
Without,
yeah.
yes.
Without permission, yes, you are. You are in trouble if you are going to. You said it's a 2-minute clip, right?
Yes.
Now
yes.
there's something called fair use in copyright law. I don't want to dive in too much into copyright, but a free, what you call it, fair use. If you are using it not because you are benefiting any money, or if you are using this music not for commercial purposes, but what you are doing it because you are trying to showcase something, there's some leeway or some, you can get away with it. But honestly, using somebody's music or any part of anybody's art, whether it's a graphic or artwork or a sound, without their permission is not a good thing to do. It's going to land you into serious trouble if it happens that you are found that you are profiting or making money from actually exploiting that work. Also, if you're going to be putting that music into or that clip into social media platforms, for example, you might get banned or that video might get taken down because a lot of music that is popular is then copyrighted, and all these social media platforms know when you're using music that is of commercial value to somebody else. So you might do a disservice to yourself by doing that, because you might find, for example, YouTube knows when you're using copyrighted music, for example, that you don't have permission to use, so get permission if you know you're going to be using it for commercial purposes. If it's just for showcasing and whatnot, it's good to get permission. But if you don't, just know you run the risk of having it taken down in platforms that you might want to promote it into. For example, Instagram and YouTube. So you might have maybe a trailer, or it's like a short film, got 2 minutes. You might find that it has about 50,000 views. People are liking it, and the copyright holder finds it, tags it, reports you, and then it gets taken down. You don't want that type of a situation.
All right. Another question is, I heard that there's a library. I'm not sure whether it's Samro, where you can access free music. Can you please tell us more about accessing free South African music. Apparently, if music, I don't know how many years it has to be ordered to be accessible in the library from SAMRO. Can you please elaborate on that? Apparently, she's trying to ask if you can use music that is provided by a SAMRO. Can you please elaborate?
Okay.
What is SAMRO and what is the library for?
All right, all right. So I understand what the user is trying to actually ask, or the person is trying to ask. So what happens is then once that time frame has lapsed, then what that music becomes, it becomes in the public domain. Then people can actually use it without necessarily having any repercussions or anybody suing and whatnot. Obviously, you have to credit where the music comes from. So if you're looking for that type of music, you have to just go at Sambro and say, which music is in the public domain? Can you have access to it? Then they'll give you a list of that music, or they'll point you in the right direction. So there is something like that, where let's say whatever the hottest song in South Africa is right now, 50 years from now, that song from when the artist is alive, you can't use that music. When the artist then dies, then there's like a 50-year period as well where you can't touch it. After that time, then that music becomes in the public domain, and that's when then you can have access to the sub music. It's just that it's a very vintage type of library, you know. And most of the times you've got people that are looking after those people's music or in a state. For example, Brenda Fass's music, you can't just go and touch it. As much as she has passed away for some time, you still have to wait for some time before you can start using it without permission or consider it as free music to use. So that answers it. So they'll just have to go at somewhere and find out which music is in the public domain for free use.
Clarence, it seems as though she's having network problems. Yes.
No, I understand. I understand.
So what we'll do, we will forward the questions to you. We'll email you the questions that are outstanding.
Yes.
We just want to extend our gratitude for your time and for actually sharing this. Thank you so much. We really appreciate this. Has been a very, very informative presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Also, we would like to thank KZN Film Commission for their support. Without their support, we would not be able to execute such a grand event. So we highly, highly, highly just want to extend our appreciation, and also to all the other sponsors that supported this event. And we are excited for next year's event, because this year has been such an amazing event. So thank you very much. And yeah, this is our last day, and goodbye to everybody. But we'll continue. The event is still continuing until 3 o'clock today. And yeah, bye everyone.